Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and we are going to be talking today about Versulf the Grim. Now, I just put out a video the other day talking about how this is not like my favorite fusion. If you're not going to fuse him, I don't think you're going to regret it, and I do stand by those words, but I got a lot of comments on the video, and I got a lot of comments in chat the next day on stream, and they both kind of echoed this thing where Versulf is better than I was giving him credit for, and so true be, I had to take a look at him, and you know what? I was wrong. He is better than I was giving him credit for. I still stand by what I said. He's not like a god-tier champion to fuse. He's not Brogni. I don't even think he's Herndig, quite frankly, and he's definitely not, Iron Brago either. But he is very good, and for early game accounts, mid-game accounts, even some late game accounts, I think he's actually going to be really valuable. But I see his main value for you in two areas. One, pushing Doom Tower, right? When you can have ally protection, increased defense, those are really valuable skills, not to mention that leech. It becomes really important in Doom Tower, and the fact that he can hit hard, all those things kind of work really well together. Also, I think he's going to be really good in Clan Boss, like I said. Now, he's not God tier. He's going to be very difficult to tune, but if you have the right team, if you have the right champions around him, I think he can be very, very good for you. Now, one of the things I forgot about is how important it is to get that healing from some avenue on your team. I grew up on this game using Leech, right? Or using Lifesteal Gear, I should say. But Leech, like Versulf has, is a super great way to heal your team without relying on Lifesteal Gear. So it opens up the ability for your team to really use a lot of different gear types, and it can be really, really beneficial, I think. So if you're struggling in those early games, trying to stay alive, trying to get that healing, Versulf is going to be very valuable for you. But let's remember, his kit with the ally protection and increased defense buff on the same skill can make him very difficult to tune. And I'm going to go and highlight that exactly for you guys. I'll show you in the calculator why it can be so difficult to tune with that, and why certain combinations of champions don't work super well with him. And so he's going to help in some areas, but he's going to make it more difficult in others. He's very similar to Tyrant, basically the same kit. Tyrant's another great champion for Clan Boss, but you have to kind of accommodate his skills to really utilize them to his fullest, and that can be very, very difficult. So I'll go over all that in the video coming up here. I do want to let you know I'm going to have a game on video down below highlighting my what I think are the 5 best ally protection champions in this game. A lot of them won't come as a surprise. Some of them might, and definitely one of them is in this Clan Boss team right here. Right there. So I think you guys are going to enjoy that, so make sure to check that out. As always, if you enjoy the music, the Soundstripe link is down below, but let's go ahead and take a look at the champions, and then I'll talk about this tune in particular, why I chose it, how it works, and what you're going to want to look out for when you're building Versulf. And then we can see how he runs in this team and see, kind of what is his potential for Clan Boss, how good can he be here. Okay, this is Versulf the Grim, right? I mean, he still looks great. Nothing's changed there. Here's the masteries I've chosen for him, and these are pretty traditional Clan Boss masteries that I kind of recommend. If you can get the accuracy, that's really the deciding factor. If you can get the accuracy, avoid the support tree, go down the defensive tree, you're just coming pretty much straight down here and over, and you're picking up blast proof along the way. Those, I think, are the best ones to get. As far as his kit, now I decided this time I'm just going to stack him out for Clan Boss, right? So what did I do? I've gone a little different way than I usually do with ally protection champions. Usually I build up their defense to a really high number as well as their HP. This time I went full HP on him. I got his defense to 3,000, got his HP up to 90,000 almost, 171 speed. He is the slowest in the comp, and I will show you why exactly later on. And we also have his accuracy at a good 244 for Ultra Nightmare. Now, that defense level, let's talk about that for just a second here. There's a couple buffs, and there's a buff in this game called Increased Defense. Super great. Gives you a 60% buff to your defense, right? Well, 60% of 3,000 is about 1,800. If you add 1,800 to 3,000, you got about 4,800 defense. It's a really good amount. And here's why that's a key amount. At about 4,200, as you know, the way defense works, the more defense you get, the more damage gets reduced. At about the 4,200, 4,400 mark, in that range, the amount of damage that you reduce from defense, you are better off stacking HP. It's going to be a better, it will help you last longer than stacking more defense. So when you have an increased defense buff going on the full fight, at that point you really want to start stacking HP. It's not that you can ignore defense, it's just that you want to replace it with HP instead. And so that's what we did here. We got him 3,000. We're going to have increased defense up for the full fight. That's key. And so at that point, we can stack HP, and that's going to help him survive for a lot longer. On top of that, I gave him 100% crit rate, but only 125% crit damage. I didn't build him full damage because I built him for sustain, right? Keep that in mind. He's still going to hit hard, but you're going to see he's not like a crazy damage dealer. And I think for accounts of his that he's going to best benefit, that's actually a pretty solid amount, right? We're talking early game accounts, mid game accounts, you know, some late game accounts. Maxing his crit rate, crit damage, and his HP and defense is probably not going to be realistic. So I think this is actually going to be a better indication of what he can do personally. The team, you know, whole different story. But just to give you an idea, the rest of the champions we're going to be bringing in here. We are going to bring in Underpriest Brogni, and I'm doing this basically just to deal so I don't have to worry about the debuffs, okay? We're going against Void, so I don't have to worry about the debuffs, but this team would be affinity friendly if you wanted to run it. It's a very simple build. He's going at 172 speed, so he's actually going a little bit faster than Versulf. I have him built out kind of similar, right? A lot of HP, just a certain amount of defense, and the speed at the right spot. Try to get him more crit rate and crit damage and accuracy, but I think that's going to work fine. We're also going to be bringing in Alton. Alton's the person we actually want taking the stun in this scenario. We'll put him as lead. Part of the reason he's going to have the highest defense, 4,600. That's great. He's got 40,000 HP. It's a fine amount. Good crit damage, crit rate. He'll do some damage for us. Good accuracy there. We have Draco, as I said before. I did build him to do damage at these lower speeds. So almost 5,000 attack is pretty good. 100% crit rate, good crit damage. And we'll see kind of how he does. We're not going to have a full debuff bar because we only have Draco as our only poisoner in here. But we should still do pretty good raw damage, and that's kind of what we're relying on. And then the last champion we're going to bring in is going to be Skull Crusher. Now, Skull Crusher, I have also at 172. He's going to be just faster than Versulf, just slower than Brogni, so that we can get counterattack up as much as possible and keep ally protection up on everybody as much as possible. He doesn't have quite as much HP, but he does have more defense than Versulf. He's a defensive-based champion, so it's makes a lot more sense to push his defense higher rather than his HP. We want both high, but that's going to be the big thing that we're going to want to push for him. Good crit rate, good crit damage as well. So you can see I have everybody plugged in over here, right? Got the speed sets, everything else. For now, because I don't have him in the calculator yet, we're using Tyrant as a substitute. Tyrant also has basically the same skill, right? That A3, he's got a, that's the ally protection, right? And defense up. So that's the skill we have there. And then his A2 is that leech. So we can kind of see where these skills need to go and how to make them happen for us. So we don't get confused. So we got Versulf right here. He's going to be doing the ally protection and the defense up buff. And I think that's going to be really, really important for us. That's where we want it there. And the reason why is this is going to give us increased defense for the second AoE. It's also going to mean that we will have ally protection. You can see all these ally protection buffs that are still up here. We're going to have ally protection on all of our champions that are going to be stunned. And that's huge, except for him, obviously. And then they'll also all have increased defense buff. This is the thing I want to show you guys. This is why Versulf is so difficult to tune. Versulf, you notice I have going last in this comp. If I have him going not last, but like in the middle there, look what happens right here. And I'll try and zoom in one more time. Right here before the stun. We drop increased defense. We drop ally protection on both Underpriest Brogni as well as Skull Crusher. But not having that increased defense buff means the stun is going to go to one of these two champions. This is a problem, right? We don't want the stun, especially we don't want them taking the stun without increased defense, not to mention without ally protection. It's going to make them squishy. They will die to that. And so how do we fix this? This can be a really big problem for us. Well, we have to have him go last. It's the only way to do it. And you also notice we kind of run into the same problem with Underpriest Brogni, right? Because his block debuff happens just before. We're kind of running into that same sort of issue. This might seem familiar to you. And if it does, that's good, because it's this same type of thing happens with another champion that I think you should be familiar with. And that's the Sepulchre Sentinel. So here I have it set up the way we would with Sepulchre Sentinel, where she would place her increased defense buff and block debuff skill right before the second AoE, and so it would carry over through the stun. Okay, that's what she does. It's a great skill, love it. If she doesn't go last, what ends up happening is that block debuff and the increased defense buff falls off. Now we can use Versulf with her. You'll see everybody that goes before Versulf, Draco and Brogni, they both have the ally protection still on for the stun. That's wonderful. But we're now using both of their skills on the same turn. That is a less than ideal combination there. We want to be able to use Versulf to get the ally protection buff between the AoEs so that Skullcrusher can do the ally protection before the AoEs and we can have it for the entire fight. Because of this, and without another champion like an Alton in there, which seems a little excessive, I'll be honest, we won't have increased defense for the first AoE, and then that's where we die. Point of that is, Versulf is great, but the unique nature of that ally protection buff, the unique nature of that increased defense buff can cause some major issues for us as far as trying to keep your team tuned. So you almost have to bring in a second increased defense champion with Versulf. You pretty much have to, because if that falls off the wrong person, they're going to take the stun, and that's probably going to throw off your thing. They're also probably not going to be. They're not going to be covered by the ally protection. That'll be another issue. These are the kind of accommodations you have to make. This is why Tyrant's very difficult to tune for clan boss, and it always becomes a combination. It's not just about one champion, but it's about all the champions and all of them working together. So Versulf's going to be fantastic for some teams. He's also going to be completely useless for others. As long as you know that, as long as you understand your team, I think he could be a wonderful addition. The other thing we're going to want to make sure that we do is that we get Versulf's Leech before this first AoE. Because what's going to happen is Clan Boss is going to attack, right? He's going to place the Leech. Clan Boss attacks, we need to recover. The counterattack will help us do that, right? We'll be able to heal up off that Leech. Same thing here with the second AoE. Now, we could always try to put it at a different time if we feel like that's going to be better for us. But I'm pretty sure this is where we're going to want to have it so that we can heal up between each AoE, and then the stun hit isn't hitting somebody that only has like 10% health or something like that. Obviously, the Leech doesn't land. We are in trouble, but that's always the case, so nothing new there. All right, one last thing before we get into the run. Looking at Versulf and the skill priority, you do need to make sure that you prioritize these different skills. For some reason, he really likes to use his A1 in Clan Boss on auto. So if you don't set the priority of these skills, he's not going to use them at the right time, and that will throw things off for you. So definitely make sure that you prioritize your skills here. You want to prioritize that Rainosaur. You want to prioritize that quality minions. When you use it, it's totally up to you. They're both on 3-turn cooldown. So as soon as you use it once, as long as they are prioritized enough to be used when they're available again, they'll be used on the regular. But just make sure that you set those for yourself. Okay, like always, we want to make sure that we set up all our skills. We want that decreased defense and counterattack or decreased defense and weaken for the counterattack, I said. So we're going to wait on Draco's skills. We're going to wait on Alton's skills. Brogni, we do want to block those debuffs, so we're going to go ahead and put that out. The little added shield from Brogni is definitely not going to hurt us, and we'll get some little bit of extra damage from that as well. Here we go with the A1 there from Skullcrusher, and then Versulf is going to do his ally protection and increased defense buff right there, and that should keep us good throughout this fight. A1 here with Draco, A1 here with Alton, and then Brogni's going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and A1 just in case the stun comes through somehow, because remember, not everybody is covered on this. It shouldn't be an issue, but for some reason, if the clan boss gets frisky, then we can cleanse it off. Regardless, our shield's not going to last through the next hit, so it's not really worth trying to extend it there. Here we go, get that decreased defense and weaken. You did see that stun went to Alton, which is what we want. Here comes that A3 with the increased defense again. There we go. In case we had any debuffs, we remove them right there. We get the counterattack right here from Skullcrusher, and then we put the Leech out right there. And now we are on full auto. Team should work without a charm, and we can kind of get an idea of how Versulf does. You can see there, with decreased defense and weaken, we're getting about 45,000 damage. Now, like I said, he doesn't have crazy crit damage, right? Both Alton and Draco have almost twice what he does. But he does have a heck of a lot of HP, and he does do a fair amount of damage there. 45k is not a bad amount, but it's definitely nothing to write home about. There you go, guys. I'd say pretty impressive run right there. 40 million damage is more than I really expected, to be honest with you. But, you know, we got some really good results out of it. Now, you can see Versulf's not a crazy damage dealer when you build him for Clan Boss. If you build him to hit, obviously he can. But that's not what I did, because I had to figure most of us aren't going to build him that way if we're actually going to use him in Clan Boss. And you can see, I mean, he was not bad, but he wasn't like a crazy damage dealer. But you can see the power of that ally protection, right? We lasted well over 40 turns, able to keep everybody alive, and kicking did 40 million damage, which is pretty crazy. It's also the benefit of having increased defense up for the entire fight. You can see some of the limitations with the leech. We weren't able to heal up 100% every single time. So that is something that you definitely need to keep in mind. Whether that means you, bring in the healer or do something else, it's hard to say. Brogni we had in there, but, towards the end of the fight, his shield's just not that big. So it's not going to protect us that much or heal us up that much. If you pair him with a big shield champion like a Valkyrie, or even like a Taragi the Frog who's really well built, you can get a lot more out of it. In this case, that definitely wasn't the case, but I didn't build this to do the best damage in the world. I really built this to showcase Versulf and what he can do with the team, and I think this shows that. This is a very solid 2-key team using Versulf in there with some other champions, and not everything else was optimized. Now, obviously, I think this shows also how important it is to make sure you have a 5-man team. It's really crucial to have all 5 champions be able to synergize things with you. If thinking back on it, because we were doing Void, I could have taken out Brogni and brought in Battle Khazar. That would have been a huge boost for ourselves. Not only does he give a damage boost, would have got some more poisons, and he would have provided a little bit extra healing. If we used him primarily or solely to cleanse the stun, which can work because it's Void, that would have been a big damage change for us, But obviously, not everybody has Bad L. Not everybody even has Brogni right now. And if you don't have Draco or somebody similar to that, like a Venus or somebody that's going to bring you not only the debuffs that you need, decreased defense and weaken, but also poison and raw damage, it can become harder. That's where you're using a Rosin and you're trying to bring in another champion to give you those poisons, and it can be a little bit difficult when you're bringing all of that in there. But I think Versulf is a good addition to that. So, yeah, pretty solid. So you guys can see that's what Versulf the Grim can do. I think he's an excellent champion for Clan Boss, absolutely. I would not say he's the top tier champion, but I will say he did make my top 5 of Ally Protection champions. As I was looking at it, I was like, yeah, he makes that list. There's other champions that I might use ahead of him. And in fact, when it comes to ally protection, often you're using the ally protection champion that you want that's going to fit the other 4 champions that you have on your team. It's almost counterproductive to build a team around your ally protector. But, you got to make sure all 5 champions work together in synergy. It's incredibly important. A lot of times I get asked, how's this champion or how's that champion? And in a vacuum, I can, yeah, great, not so good, whatever. But it really matters. How good are they? It really matters how the other champions are, put in with him. I love a Jareg, for example, as a wonderful ally protection champion, but he's on a 4-turn cooldown, which means the speeds can be hard for you depending on the team you have. He also has increased defense with his ally protection, which means he's very hard to tune and get the stun going right. So it depends who you're putting with them. If you're putting him with a Brogni, it can be very good. Or if you're pairing him with a Sepulchre Sentinel, that could be okay. Do you have counterattack in your team? Are you going at a 2-1 ratio? All these kinds of things really make a significant difference as far as, how effective your team is and, how much are you staying alive or not. It really, really makes a big, big impact. So it's always interesting, and I really do like the fact that Versulf brings that leech in there. It makes him a lot more... I would say a lot more useful than a lot of other ally protection champions in that sense, and a lot easier to bring into your team because of that. You can bring him in, even if his other skills don't fit perfectly, you could still bring him in just to be that leech champion for you. That's not a bad way to go either. So if you're talking about, do I bring in Grush or do I bring in Versulf? Well, Versulf might be a wonderful substitution, great option. He might be the best leech champion we have for Clan Boss right now because of that. So that is definitely something worth keeping about. I mean, he's a legendary champion. He better be good somewhere, right? And I can definitely see some usage for him. I think there is some limits to how you use him. So that's why I'm not full bore, gotta get this guy. But I will say, if you fuse him, you will be happy about it. I think he's definitely going to be a good addition to your team. So if those of you that are still struggling with the Fragment Fusion, still on the fence about it, I think that you're going to be in good shape if you go for him. And if you decide not to, my guess is you'll probably be okay too. But yeah, that's the Versulf the Grim. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully showed a little stuff for you guys. By the way, if you're asking about the speed tune itself, it's just a simple 1-1 ratio. Everybody's going between 171 and 189, basically. You do that, they'll all stay in order. You don't have to worry about it. So nothing fancy going on there. The only thing fancy is timing who goes where in the turn order. That was really the only difference we made in there. So hopefully this is helpful. Check out that Game On video. Soundstripe links down below if you like the music. And yeah, I got some fun videos coming up. Did an interview with Wantamess. I should have that out tomorrow, so look forward to that. And we'll do a whole nother video just on ally protection, because I think after that Hell Hades video, everybody's been talking about it. I'm really excited to kind of talk about that with you guys and, share all the insights I have. So until next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.